Listen to me, Barstool conservatives will decide this election. Not suburban moms, not men of color, not me, Barstool conservatives. Here's why. I'm your host, Grace Weinstein, and I am a firm believer that sports can help us understand politics. And as we get closer to the election, I'm going to have a prediction for you about which way the Barstool conservatives are going to go. But first, what the hell is that? So I wanted us all to take like a little guess of what we thought the hell this is, and you guys did not disappoint. So here's what you had to say.
A Barstool conservative is someone who sits at a bar all day and their news source is whatever is on the TV.
A term coined around the personality and character of Dave Portnoy.
Just sounds like a dude bro, to be honest.
Somebody who likes to play devil's advocate.
They're on the fence between choosing being a conservative or voting liberal.
Skeeter from South Park.
Libertarian, socially liberal, pro-patriarchy.
Now, for me, I wrote, a Barstool conservative believes that gay people are chill and that Plan B should be free. Ronald Reagan had it right when he invented trickle-down economics and wrong when it came to drugs because they think drugs are awesome. But what does a Barstool conservative actually look like today? Obviously, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, Dave Portnoy.
Every once in a while, I get so fed up with politics, I gotta do a rant.
He didn't necessarily start Barstool conservatism, but he is kind of the figurehead and the inspiration for what we now know as like a stronghold of our political culture, but is mostly known for creating Barstool Sports and having a lot of opinions on sports. Go Celtics. To me, the main things that make up a Barstool fan are sex, they love it, drugs, they love it, gambling, they love it, women, they love it. And yeah, honestly, I don't know if we're even going to be talking about women as a part of the Barstool conservative movement today. That might be a whole other thing. When I was researching this and researching his policy positions in particular, what I discovered is that there's no through line. There is no ideological consistency through which you can understand where their positions are at all. So I'm going to do my best to lay this clear for you based on what I understood. I think that everything for them and everything for this kind of voter completely depends on whatever the conditions of the moment are. Let me give you an example.
If you don't wear a fucking mask, you're a fucking dickhead, you're a fucking asshole, you should be fined, thrown in jail, tarred and feathers.
Next video.
What is it, Fauci? Pick a fucking side. Or at least say you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Those are very different opinions, but for the moment that he was posting that video in, it felt correct and right for him. So taking my understanding of that, I then looked one level further, and what I came to was this. Barstool conservatives are anti anything that places any sort of restriction on their life, whether that is a COVID lockdown, whether that is language policing, you know, the left says I can't say these certain words that I used to say because now they're racist. They don't like that kind of restriction going on in their lives. They don't like being told no. I'm sure that's kind of familiar for a lot of you who may know a Barstool conservative out there. So how does this apply to like the modern Republican Party? Because obviously they're conservatives. Donald Trump, Barstool conservative. On the cover of Playboy magazine, indicted for having sex with a porn star. This is textbook Barstool conservatism. Then you look at JD Vance, and we'll get to this rupture a little later and why I think it might pose a problem for Republicans in this election. JD Vance is decidedly, emphatically not a Barstool conservative. But we really can't understand what the 2024 outlook is for this group unless we understand kind of their metamorphosis through time and how they've changed. In the 1980s, we had Reagan's stool. This is a literal concept, so just kind of ironic that this is also Barstool. 3 legs. Social conservatism, number 1. War hawks, number 2, who were really freaked out about communism. Libertarians, number 3. And that's what made up the Republican coalition that elected somebody like Ronald Reagan. That coalition has gone up and down through the times, but let's just start at 2015. 2015, Dave Portnoy did endorse Donald Trump, not because of his policies, specifically said that it wasn't because of that, but because he was making other politicians squirm, which shows me little about his worldview, other than that he views politics as sports, the way that, you know, Steph Curry is getting up a shot or making a defender squirm. That's the way that they view this, someone to cheer for and someone to cheer against. And in 2016, that coalition of traditional conservatives, you know, think of the Mike Pences of the world, and the Barstool conservatives teamed up and delivered the White House for Donald Trump. And that was really the first time many of the Barstool generation, they're younger, were able to vote. And they put him into the White House. Moving to 2020, a lot of these Barstool conservatives really felt squeezed by Democrats. And here's what I mean by that. It was on a cultural level, not necessarily on a political level. They felt like they were being told what words they could and couldn't use, especially among these social justice movements that were happening. They were being told where and when they could go somewhere, most of the time in blue states with blue governors. Lockdowns majorly attributed to Democratic governors across the country. At the same time, there were these moments where people like Dave Portnoy were coming online and saying, you should wear a mask. I'm wearing a mask every day. Or I have made insensitive jokes in the past and I wouldn't make those jokes again. There were these moments of kind of social awareness, social wokeness, if you want to say, which they particularly hate, that were starting to infiltrate, and perhaps that's why they didn't come through for Donald Trump in 2020 the way that they did in 2016. And a lot of that might have to do with social ostracism. If they saw that they were going to be socially ostracized from their circles because of their non-PC, non-conformist ways of behaving, they might have moderated for the 2020 vote. 2022 is where it really gets shook up, girl. 2022, the Dobbs decision happens, abortion rights get struck down. Dave Portnoy comes online and is like, this is a disgrace. We are going backwards in this country. I cannot believe that we are fighting about the Constitution, a document that's written by people who had slaves. And you're like, is this the same man? Because me, when I was doing this, I was struggling to track his worldview through all of this. But he was defiant in the face of the Dobbs decision and was like, I will not vote for Republicans because I believe women have a right to control their own bodies. And everybody was like, yes, woke princess. Come on, Dave Portnoy, ally. So that's really the foundation for what I call the Let Us Live movement. They want everybody in America to live and let live without interference. This goes back to the days of small government and privacy and wanting what's going on in your house to just be up to you and not up to the government. And it really feels like it's universalist in a lot of ways. If you apply it to their reaction to abortion rights being taken down across the country, like it feels inclusive of women and not just, white, straight, fratty, douchey men. But the lead up to 2024 is where really everything has been changing. Dave Portnoy, once again, despite saying he would never vote for a Republican ever again, decides to endorse Trump. He says, I have no issue with anybody who votes the opposite way. Here are the 7,500 reasons I think Kamala Harris is absolutely stupid, but I respect your position wherever you land. So there's a real potential that they flip back the other way. But this time, something is really different. It's really different than it was in 2020 and even in 2022. In 2024, the MAGA movement is largely held down by people with very, very strict religious beliefs. These social conservatives that were a tenet of conservatism in the 1980s, like I said, one of the stool legs. So I want you to envision this with me. You have these Barstool conservatives in the middle. You have Democrats on the left, who they view as finger wagging, finger shaking, naysaying, language policing, gender policing, whatever on the left. So you can see why there's not a lot of love lost between those two. But on the right, they're looking at the new MAGA constituency and who's in power. You've got J.D. Vance, who is Catholic, who has a very regressive view of societal norms when it comes to relationships, marriage, sex, all of the above. You've got Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, who believes, we should get rid of no-fault divorce, who believes that there is a mandate of heaven to control the United States government, wants to inject religion directly into it. You've got these guys who are writing administration policy, the Project 2025 guys, everybody's favorite buzzword this election season, who are writing this policy where on page 1 they say, we want to ban porn, and anybody who produces porn will get thrown straight in prison. Now, that doesn't sound exactly like the ideology that's going to align with the Barstool group. They're a group who actively watches porn and maybe feels like they're a part of this growing addiction to porn among men in this country. They probably subscribe to people on OnlyFans. They've probably bought Plan B for people because they enjoy having unprotected sex. Again, they're horny on main, these men. How Does that group in the middle align with either side? Will they be more turned off by cultural puritanism or cultural policing? That's really what it's going to come down to. And I think, here's my opinion that you've all been waiting for this entire time. And honestly, I was indecisive as I was writing this, researching this, kind of flitting back and forth the sort of way that Barstool conservatives are in everyday life on policy anyway, but I think I've landed here. Sex is what motivates young men. If young men are going to be denied sexual liberty, sexual freedom, sexual acceptance, and opportunity, I cannot imagine that they would choose to vote for the party that's going to enable that. I think it is more likely that they grin and bear it on the left. Maybe I'll regret this, you guys. They'll grin and bear this on the left, like worth being kind of an outcast in that side of the political world, but aligned with the idea that they'll be able to choose the partners they want to choose, watch the porn they want to watch, gamble the money they feel like gambling, all of the above. I could be wrong. I could be super wrong. And I think a lot of it will depend on what their relationships with women are like. If they have women in their life who they trust and who they see as equals and who they want to protect and who they let convince them, then I think they will move leftward. The most likely scenario, though, not the one that I'm choosing, is that they don't vote at all. They just say, you know what, I'm sticking out of this one and I'm going to pretend that it has absolutely nothing to do with me, even though it absolutely does. So where the fuck this group of Barstool conservative lands is anybody's guess. You heard mine. Please tell me yours. Leave it in the comments and we'll circle back on this one for sure. Make sure to subscribe to WTF America right here on YouTube. We'll see you at the election.